You're watching PEGRI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
On this new episode of Reflections TV, I'm going to be sitting with 5 constituents, how they're going to share their story about them being homeless, but also how they went from being homeless to receiving housing. We know that in our country it is a serious epidemic, and how a few and others are finding ways to end homelessness. Listen in and hear their stories and about the misconceptions that are going on and the lives of people who are in the struggle. So watch and listen on this new episode of Reflections TV.
My name is Diamond Madsen. This is my story. I went from being homeless to having a home now. In my life, when I was homeless, these are what you needed every day. A backpack to keep your belongings, an umbrella if it rains, your jacket if it's wintertime, your hat. It's cold out now, and a pair of gloves. These are your best friends when you're homeless. Because you got to watch everything you have, do everything that you have to do. Learn by watching people, and try to let people in your life. Took me a long time to do that. I'm blessed. I'm blessed in my life now because things are looking up.
Welcome to a new edition of Reflections TV, where I am your host today, Shirley Hood. Today is a new show. Yes, a special show. Today I have 5 constituents on, and these constituents are here today to share their stories in regards to homelessness. I count it a privilege to have them around this table just to talk about how we are all in the fight and how they are in the fight to end homelessness. But before we introduce them on today, I just want to say thank you all for tuning in into Reflections TV. It has been a pleasure and an honor of serving and bringing you not only the good news of the gospel, but also what's going on in our community and in our world. So much is going on today, and we want to be able to be the ones to bring that to the forefront. So we thank you. We thank you for watching us. We thank you for being in tune and watching Reflections TV. It's an honor to hear from you, and it's our privilege to serve you. Reflections TV is all about you, and we want to make it just that way. Just know you can catch us on public access channels, Verizon and Cox channels, and also you can watch us on YouTube. That's right, we are on YouTube. And when you do watch us on YouTube, all you got to do is type in Reflections TV, and boom, you're right there to watch any of the shows that is displayed. Then, once you watch, not only watch it, but comment, like, and subscribe. Yes, subscribe to the page. Let us know how we're doing so that we can make sure that we are doing right. Listen, we are all about spreading the good news because this is what Reflections TV stands for. And we so appreciate everything that is being done. So I just want to let you all know, as I've stated, this is a new edition of Reflections TV. I'm so excited to have, again, these great 5 constituents on. And they come from a program from the Rhode Island Homeless for the Coalition. It's called The Voices of Homelessness. These 5 individuals go out and they share their stories in regards to homelessness and how it impacted their life, but yet how they've done something about it to change it. I'm proud to say that I am new to the Rhode Island Homeless for the Coalition as a constituent organizer. And it's a pleasure to serve and be a great advocate just for them. So without any further ado, y'all, we're going to introduce our constituents on today. And we're going to start off by saying, right here we have the one and only Alexandra Gonzalez, who is on, Ruth Madsen, Wilma Smith, Wendy Thomas, and Al Turner. Thank you all for being on this new episode of Reflections TV. We are going to go right ahead, y'all, and we're just going to have a conversation. Is that okay with y'all?
Wonderful.
All right. So let's get down to the business, because what we want to do today, guys, we want to talk about your stories. We want to talk about what happened. We want to talk about what you done to change your life and what it took for you to change your life from being homeless and to receiving housing. So on today, we're going to first start this question. We're going to actually talk to Ruth today. And Ruth, just tell us your story. Tell us how you was impacted with homelessness and now receiving housing, and what are you doing in the fight to end homelessness?
My life has changed a lot, you know. I've been homeless for 10 years. I spent a lot of time between Crossroads and the Mission. I also had a drug problem in those 10 years, you know. I'm clean and now. I'm proud to death to say that I'm clean and sober. It took a lot of work, you know. I didn't believe in myself when I was out there. But when you don't believe in yourself, you don't think things can change. I had people that believed in me, and they wouldn't give up on me. And I think that made a big difference in my life, is knowing that these people were there, and even when I was down, they were there. You know, I started taking classes at Crossroads. I started doing different things, you know. And I started feeling good about myself. Things were changing. You know, I was with Coalition for a long time, and a man named Jim Reisneck, he helped me out a lot. He's the one that had me sign up for Section 8 housing, and through him and other people, I did it. And, you know, I've been housed since 2016 now. I was recently employed with House of Hope as a peer mentor. I did their program, and from there I was hired, and I also became a triage assessment specialist. Sorry to say to me, myself, my job ended the 22nd, but I still hold what I do to my heart, and I still help people out here. You can find me anywhere out here on the street trying to help people. I'm at the church on Sunday at 6 o'clock in the morning. People call my phone all hours a day and need something, and I'm there because I remember that when I was out there, I didn't feel like anybody was there for me. So I want to be the person that when they need something, you know, you can call my phone and I can say, yes, I'm there. You know, I also have family that's out here too, you know. My family didn't understand why I did it, and, you know, I hope they understand now that I did it because I wanted to do something for myself. You know, this was something I got myself into, and I had to get myself out, and I'm glad I got myself out. You know, I have kids too. You know, they didn't experience this, but they have their own hardships right now, and I stand by them with what they do. I don't turn my back like my parents did to me when I was younger.
So tell us of that dark time in your life where you became homeless. What was that like for you?
It was scary at first. It was real scary for me, you know. I didn't know anybody. I didn't trust anybody, and I had to do things in that time that, you know, I probably wouldn't have done now. I had to become somebody that I wasn't just to stay safe. You know, when you do become homeless, you have to forget some things, and you can't wear your heart on your shoulder. You have to forget everything, and you know, whatever happens out there, you have to turn your face with a grain of salt. You know, you can't have that compassion side of you, and that's hard, you know, because I am a compassionate person, but when I was out there, I wasn't compassionate. I didn't care. I did some things I shouldn't have did and watched some things I shouldn't have watched, but today it's okay.
Yes.
You know, I'm not that person anymore. I care about people.
Yeah.
You know, and I try to see good in everybody. Even though it's still hard for me, and I isolate a lot because sometimes I still feel like that scared person when I was homeless 10 years ago. But I just wake up and do what I have to do on a daily basis. If it doesn't work out, okay, it doesn't work out. Tomorrow's another day.
What would you say that, what turned your life around? What made you say, you know what, I don't want to be homeless anymore. I'm going to find ways to get myself out of this. Like I'm pretty sure most of you all went through this too. What light came through for you and said, I'm going to work towards getting housing? What was it for you?
There's a lot of them. I think the biggest one was, you know, when Jim Reisneck talked to me and told me to sign up for Section 8 housing, and at that time I was like, yeah, whatever. Let me just say what I want so I can shut you up and you can get away from me. You know, and I signed up for it, and I really didn't think it would happen because it was one of 500 people that they could choose to get a voucher. I was number 500, and it's hard. You know, I was sick when I got my voucher. And I was in the hospital, and I had a choice, either sign myself out to keep my voucher or stay in hospital and stay homeless. I signed myself out to get my voucher, and, you know, from then my life changed. You know, I was on medication when I came to sign up for my voucher, and I told them, but they still gave it to me because I signed myself out, and I wanted my voucher so bad. Like, I did everything that there was possibly to do to get it, and it took me, when I got it, took me I think two case managers from Crossroads, and then they phased me out of their program. So like, oh, you got housed, and you got all your stuff together, and you did all this. Yeah, I did. I don't want to be with you anymore. I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. It's not fun. I want something different, and I'm out of there, and, you know, I lived in Providence for my first year like I have to, and now I've been in Pawtucket as of April for 2 years, and I'm happy. I'm happy where I'm at.
Good.
I have a nice little home with my 2 little cats and my fish, and I'm happy.
Good. So, Ruth, you know, you are a part of Rhode Island Homeless for the Coalition under a program that was formed called the Voices of Homelessness. You have taken the privilege to speak out at different speaking engagements, which was one that I had the privilege to attend. And I'm gonna tell y'all, you got to book the Voices of Homelessness. Please book them. These fine constituents are very powerful, they're very moving, and they know how to draw attention to a crowd, to share their stories, and to impact change. But Ruth, as I was listening to your story, and you were not only just sharing your story, but you was kind of breaking ground to some high school children. And there was one girl that was there that you drawn the attention of. And what was so compelling was that this young girl was watching you, and she came up to you afterwards, and you embraced her, you hugged her. And so by you doing that, that's just said a whole lot to me. What was that moment like for you?
That little girl we're talking about, I hope she watches this, and I just want her to know that thank you for that night also, because that little girl has some issues that I have, and I basically just told her what I try to do to deal with my social anxiety and my social disorders that I have. And it was funny because everything I told her, she does. And me and Al were there that night, and I'm just like, oh, Al, this little girl got a whole attitude like me. No, we cannot do. I'm going to wring her little neck. And come to find out, she had social disorders like I did. And the teacher came back and said that, if she wanted to hug me and tell me she's sorry, I've never, in all the years I've been speaking and doing stuff like this, I've never had a kid come back and say that. And it touched me, it really touched me to know that, little kids are out here with the same disorders that I have, and I was able to share what I do with her, and for her to tell me that these are the same things she does, it felt good,
Yes.
And I told her, you're not alone. That was one thing I told her, and
Yes.
her little friend was there with her. And I can still remember I saying it. I told her friend, I said, you can beat this.
Yes.
You got this.
Yes.
And her friend just smiled and told her, she's like, and you got this.
Yes.
And I was happy
Yes.
to hopefully change that little girl's life and let her know that, you don't have to be a shadow on the wall anymore.
That's it.
You could be somebody.
That's it. That's right. And that is so true because when you're able to capture an individual or a child's life, that is showing that you are doing something. And that night, just what I saw, it was absolutely amazing. And this is what the Voices of Homelessness does, y'all. They go out and they share their stories, and they are letting people in. And we, as the organizers, are just making them aware. Listen, we are in the fight to let legislators know that we're trying to create an end to homelessness. And so we just thank you for your story, Diamond. It was a powerful, powerful story. So we're going to move on next here. We're going to talk to Wilma. Wilma, your story is just as compelling as Diamond's story. So just tell us what is your story? Tell us what is your story.
Well, my story is kind of simple. I grew up in the foster care system, and I aged out at the age of 18 and a half with no place to go. So I landed, unfortunately, in a homeless shelter for women. And it was a difficult time for me because I had a child at the age of 15, so I had to separate from my child. I suffered a lot of depression, and I remained homeless for 4 years. And it was only when I became pregnant with my second child that I was able to get into a family shelter, get my first child back, and get housing. But during that time, I had to really rely on faith-based organizations to keep me from falling into drugs and alcohol and being consumed by that type of environment.
Yes. So, Wilma, in your bio, you talked about, everything in your life started out right. I mean, you was in your element. You was doing your own thing, and you was making your life happen. But just when you was about to graduate from high school and attend college, and then, as you stated, you lived with your foster mother, something turned around in your life where you had this argument with her, and then, boom, you became homeless. How did it make you feel? How did you make it through this dark time in your life?
It was really hard, Shirley. As I said, I suffered from depression. I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to deal with the reality of going from preparing to college to living in a warehouse setting with 50 other women on a daily basis. I wasn't ready to be a full-time adult. So it was like a harsh reality, and it hit me really hard. I had to really rely on God and
Yes.
rely on my faith to get me through. And it was pretty much playing a game of survival on a daily basis.
Yes, yes. It's just so funny you said that because I think we all, I know I've experienced homelessness, and you said one impactful word. You said survival. We all here, sitting around this table, had to find ways and means to survive. And that came from within. And I believe our Creator provided that to us so that when we're in the darkest time of our lives, we have something on the inside to say, I'm a survivor. I'm going to get through this. Just know that your stories did not go in vain. That's why you are here at this table on my show talking about, listen, this is how I survived, and this is how I created a change in my life, which is beneficial for someone else that will watch this and say, hey, if they done it, so can I. And so this is what Voices of Homelessness is all about. And so, Roma, that's very incredible how you, how you got through in your life. And what is the hope of sharing your story, and who will know that you're trying to help in bringing homelessness to an end?
The hope of sharing my story is the hope to put an end to homelessness. I was homeless over 26 years ago, and I see that not much has changed in the homeless community. Not many more services have been provided. People are still stuck. Some people that I have met or known when I was homeless are still homeless today. And that's unfortunate, because when you think of homelessness, or when I thought of homelessness as a young child, I thought that it happened because of natural disaster or fires or floods or things like that. You don't think that people become homeless because they can't afford housing.
Yes.
Or they don't have enough resources to connect them to the appropriate things to maintain housing. And in the society that we live in today, you would think that more policies and procedures would be put in place to change those situations.
Yes.
And it all starts with educating people.
That's right.
So that's why I'm a part of the Voices of Homelessness.
That's right. That's right. And this is what this program was formed. This is the reason as to why this program is formed. It's not because, oh, this happened to me, I done something about it. No, it happened to me, I done something about it, and I can be a help to someone else.
Amen.
That's what this is all about. This is why this program was formed. And I have to say, being a constituent advisor for the Rhode Island Homeless for the Coalition, it's very rewarding in itself, and it gives me the drive and tenacity to move forward and to get other constituents involved, and to say, hey, listen, we're finding ways, okay, try to put policies in place so that we can let the State House know, listen, we're going to find ways, I say ways, to end homelessness. And if you want to be a great help in doing so, please give us a call. Please give us a call. We'll be more than happy to talk to you. Please come in and stop in our Pawtucket office. We'll be more than happy to sit with you so that you can be able to be a support to this great cause. And so we're just so happy for you to share your story on today, Wilma. That's very powerful, and we're just so grateful, and I'm pretty sure that you are today, that you're reaching someone,
Yes,
and that
it's
you
a
want to be
pleasure.
able to make a difference in someone's life.
It's a pleasure to be here, Shirley, and to be able to have this opportunity to testify my own experience to help others.
Good. I'm glad to hear it, Wilma. All right. This is really good, y'all. Really good. I mean, just to have you all here on today and just creating an impact. And so we're going to go right next to the other constituent here. So we have Wendy Thomas. Wendy, let's talk about your story. Tell us your story about homelessness.
My story, I always start with a question, is how many of you people know someone who lost their housing through fire, whether it be family members, relatives, friends? Because that's what happened to us, not once but twice within 5 to 7 years or so. It was a very difficult time. The second time, both of my girls had babies of their own. Both of them were under a year old. The girls could go into a family shelter if they wanted to. My youngest daughter did. My oldest daughter went back and stayed with friends in Connecticut that she went to college with, and she's still there. My son, that was a whole different situation because the way the rules are written, if you're over 16 and a male, you can't be in a family shelter. That they have to go in a men's shelter, which isn't safe for a grown man, never mind a 17-year-old boy. So because our house happened to have been the house where all the kids gravitated to when the kids were younger for cookouts, etc. So one of his friends' mothers took him in for a while, and then he went down and stayed with his aunt for a little while. Me, myself, I went into the women's shelter, and my survival in the women's shelter, believe it or not, was education. I took the CNA class while I was in there, and I just kind of stayed to myself in my bunk and studied while I was there. After that, I volunteered on the Praise Tabernacle food truck 4 days a week just to do something to give back. So it's been a while. I've been housed for just over 2 years. And I've taken the peer mentor class. I'm all set with that. And I volunteer 4 days a week, 48 hours a week at a sober house, and then another 6.5 hours at one of the soup kitchens.
So, Wendy, your story, it was, as I read your story, it was tragic. It was very tragic for you. And through the grace of God, I know that you are so grateful that your family as well as yourself survived through this. Tell us, what was that like to experience such a tragedy and having to rebuild? What did it take for you to rebuild your life?
It's been difficult. Back when we had our fires, the cell phones at that point were by the minute and not by the month. And I was the only one working, so the communication pretty well got cut off to a limited amount. And still it is today. I hear from my youngest daughter some, but my other daughter and my son, I really don't hear from much. It's hard, but you know, I keep going. I keep going. I'm out there helping others as much as I possibly can. I've got several health complications on that situation, but I've had 3 heart attacks and a hip replacement, dislocated collarbone, fibromyalgia, and several others, but I'm still out and about and doing anything I can to help out.
Well, I can tell you this, your pain has turned into a purpose. We all experience some type of pain in our lives, whether if it's physical, mental, financial. Just know that what we all go through, is not in vain. And we come out at the end. And the reason that it is happening this way is because there is a purpose behind it. And each and every one of you at this table, including myself, we gone through the pain. Now we are walking into our purpose, because our purpose is to let others know what we're standing for. And so, Wendy, I'm pretty sure that it must have been very difficult for your children and how they had to been separated. You had to separate the system, of course, had to separate you all. How was that experience? What was that experience like for you?
Well, as I said, because of not having cell phones that were by the month and being able to communicate, it was difficult. It still is difficult. The communication is not there.
Yeah.
The family's been broken up. My youngest daughter has 3 kids of her own. I see once in a while, not as often as I should be because they live fairly close to me. My son is got 1 child of his own. I think the last time I seen him is over a year ago. And my oldest daughter's out in Connecticut, and I have not seen her since my son's little boy was born. So yeah, it's tough.
Yes. But
Many grandkids I have never seen.
right. But I'm pretty sure that you are hopeful. Just be hopeful that reconciliation is always the option. And it could come to pass. So if we just be hopeful and mindful that you will get through this and that one day your family will come together, that's what will all matter. But Wendy, we thank you for sharing your story on today. We appreciate it. So now we're going to focus our attention on Alexandra. Alexandra, your story I read, and I was just so moved by your story as we worked on this. There's a lot that you have experienced in life. I also had the privilege to hear you share your story, and it was very powerful. So tell us, Alexandra, tell us your story.
Okay, so I grew up in a home with both parents that were addicted to drugs, and through that, I was raised by my adopted grandparents. My first year of high school, my mom went to jail, and I became homeless. I stayed with friends, people in the neighborhood, anybody that would basically help me and take me in. When I was just about 18 years old, I got married and pregnant with my first child. Once again, drugs became an issue, and usually drugs and homelessness and mental illness kind of go hand in hand. So, I ended up losing my child and ended up back in the street. I struggled with, opiates and other drugs for about another year. 2011, I had another child. And at that point, I had both of my children. Things are getting better in life, and then had another child. Through all of that, my child's father committed suicide in bed with me, and I became homeless again, and because I could no longer afford the bills, and because I had a blood clot in my leg and my lung, I was not able to take care of my children. So they have been adopted. Recently, I've had a child. He's a boy, and he is 2 years old. And through the grace of God and the state of Rhode Island, seeing that I've changed my life, I actually have custody of my son. I have been housed since 2016. Since then, I write for the community newspaper called Street Sites. I'm an outreach worker for a few different organizations. I had the privilege to be a keynote speaker for the May organization and raise a lot of money. But I think that people don't realize, as a woman, to be homeless, it's scary. And you are completely open to many elements and different things. There was a point in time where there's a place behind Water Place Park where I was able to lock myself in and sleep so I could feel safe. Then I went into Crossroads Women's Shelter, and I met the woman, Martina Javed, from the May organization, and she said, if you get housing, I'll help you. So Kodak, I'm the first patient Kodak housed. And I've been housed since 2016. And, you know, that woman came through. She actually provided hope that, you know, somebody was going to be there for me and give me support. And I haven't had that. So it was nice. It was nice. And, you know, my life has changed because of it. So I'm not upset I was homeless or because it's changed me for the better.
Yes, it did. And it's amazing that it only took, sometimes it only takes one person, you know, to help you, you know. And I believe, you know, our Creator always sends someone in our lives just to be an impact to us, you know, to give you that that extra push to move forward. And so I was really so in touch with your story, and especially when you mentioned that you was the keynote speaker for the May Organization for the Homeless. Tell us, what was the effect or the impression that you left in people's mind regarding your story when you spoke?
I don't know. You know, after I was done speaking, people were crying. It was very silent, and then everybody stood up and clapped. So at first I was very nervous. I didn't know what to think. I believe I left hope, perseverance, and, you know, to never give up, because, you know, you can't give up. You have to believe in yourself, and that there's, you know, a higher power, God, somebody there to let you help you along the way.
That is correct. That is absolutely correct. You blowing my mind. Each one of y'all stories are so powerful and so moving. And you know, the thing is that we all need to keep in mind that continue to share your story. Continue to be the voice of reason. Be the voice of change. This is what you was created to do. And we all have a purpose, as I've stated before. You all don't look like your story. You may speak about it.
We clean up well.
Yes. You did clean up very well, Diamond. That is correct. You don't look like your story because you overcame it. And so now you can get to tell your story. And that's what it's all about. And so, Alexandra, you know, it's so powerful that you mentioned this, and you mentioned that you, in the hopes of one day, to open up your own recovery house for women. Why would you want to do that?
A few different reasons. You know, I want to provide a lasting support system, a place where people can go and actually feel safe, cared about, accountable, and, you know, willing to change. I believe that, you know, if I reach enough people and I get my story out there enough, that hopefully somebody will believe in me and my vision, and, you know, somehow, some way, I'll be able to get grants or enough funding to hopefully be a staple for change in this state. I just want to provide women that are suffering from drug addiction, mental illness, and DCYF, that, you know, there's a place. There's other places in the state too, and they're very, very good places. I just have a little bit of a different of a vision, and I just think that it, you know, certain supports and other avenues, by providing them with attainable goals and, you know, rewards, but those rewards would be in their own life, not, you know, a physical reward. So once they can receive the reward and feel good about themselves, it's going to push them further.
That's it. That's it. That is absolutely positively it. Well, Alexandra, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you, Shirley.
Thank you so much. And now, we have, I call him Brother Al. Brother Al Turner is here, and he's also going to share his story. So, Al, please tell us about your story in regards to homelessness.
I became homeless in October of 2016. I became homeless because I was living in an apartment that wasn't up to code. They were running to raise my rent, and they weren't changing anything in the apartment. So I went off on a whim. I had nowhere to go. I could have stayed with friends. I could have stayed with some family. I didn't want to bother them,
Yes.
so I became homeless. I stayed at a friend's house for a month. I stayed at a friend's house for a day. Funny enough, the first night that I was out, I had a blanket. It's all I had with me. And I took a bus, and I said, let me off at the next stop, and it just happened to be near a church. And I spent the night on the bench at this church in West Warwick. And I've always been a man of faith. I received the Lord into my life when I was about 15 years old. But life goes on, and you get married. I have a daughter. I got into drinking. I got into drugs. I was doing that for on and off for about 35 years. I had a check on a disability. I mean, I could have gotten an apartment, but I went into a shelter. The Lord saw fit to put me into a shelter for reasons I will talk about. I'm a homeless advocate today. I went into the shelter. There were a lot of things that the shelter was doing that were not healthy for the clients that were there. So I had got a hold of different agencies in the state, governor's office, lieutenant governor, or the DEM, and things. And we had some things straightened out inside the shelter.
Yes.
So I had a calling. It all of a sudden came to me. I need to stay here, and I need to help these people that are in here, and myself. So as far as my alcohol and my drug addiction over the years, which, like I said, I was in the shelter. This was around Christmas time of 2016. I was at my bunk, and I threw my hands up in the air, and I just said, Lord, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to drink. I don't want to be homeless. I don't want to drug. I don't want to be depressed. I don't want any of these things anymore. And 2 days later, my addiction, all of those things that I was doing, the thoughts that I had, the negative things that I was thinking and doing, it all left. I've been sober and clean since then. I don't know what the exact date is. It's just been like 3 years. But it was 2 days later. That's how powerful that God is.
Yes.
And that changed my life. Somebody helped me. There were a few people that helped me in my younger years. I went to counseling in 1989. And this gentleman, his name is David, he saved my life. He really helped me with a lot of things that I didn't understand about myself and about life. He put things into perspective for me. He educated me.
Yes.
And it made sense.
Yes.
So I became a counselor during that. I was clean and sober for 4.5 years. I became a counselor. I worked with substance abusing adolescents, which I loved. It was absolutely fantastic. And then after 4.5 years, I went back out. I started drinking again for another 23 years. And I ended up being homeless. So I was there for a year in the shelter. I became an advocate in the shelter. I was able to get things done with help from a couple of people. We got a lot of stuff done in there. Today, I volunteer for different organizations. I'm giving back, as everybody said here. It's like, you know, people have this misconception of people that are homeless or that are drug addicts, that they're bad people maybe, or they're something different than others. We're very sensitive.
Yes.
We're very wonderful, loving people.
Yes.
All the people that I know, they have it inside of them
Yes.
to be loving and caring and nurturing.
Yes.
And we need to find that, help them find someone
Yes.
to help them nurture what lives inside of them.
Yes.
And that's what's happening.
Yes.
You know, once a person gets clean, sober, gets into housing, you start feeling part of society again.
Yes. Yes.
You start feeling part of, you know, I used to drink, so for two reasons. So I wouldn't feel things, and I used to drink so I would feel things. It was there was things that I didn't want to feel. I suffered from depression, so I drank because of that. But I knew inside that I was a really good person, so I would drink so that good social person would come out.
Yes.
It's a really strange dynamic.
Yes.
But that was what happened to me.
Yes.
I have an apartment today. I mean, even when I was in the shelter, I could have gotten an apartment. I had money coming in. I could have gotten an apartment. I didn't. The Lord kept me there, and said, "You need work. There's work to do here." So I've been doing it ever since.
So you mentioned about misconception, because that's a big deal.
Yes.
Society today, they'll pinpoint someone being homeless is because they refuse to pay their rent. That's just basically what it is. They just didn't want to pay their rent, and now they got evicted. No, that's the big problem about homelessness. Homelessness can happen to anybody. You can still have a job.
Yes, ma'am.
Have a job, but yet you can go through what Wendy went through. She had a fire in her home. So we need to get away from that and change the hearts of people and say, listen, this is not what happened to me. It's not because I miss paying rent. It's other factors that this happened. And homelessness happens to everyone. It can happen to anyone. We all experienced it, and there's different stages of it. But I love how you mentioned about education. I believe Wendy mentioned that too. And you say to people, education. We all need to be educated. In what sense do we need to be educated?
So we can get rid of the stigma.
Yeah.
There was a stigma on homeless people. There was a stigma around drug addicts. There was a stigma. Everybody judges everybody, I believe, in one way or another. You look at them for the first thing, you have an idea in your head what the person's about. We need to get rid of that in the human race, period, but more so in people that are homeless. They are homeless for a reason. They do not choose to be homeless. Something happens, as you've heard from these people here, and me, there are different ways to become homeless. You could be a doctor making $500,000 a year. Your house could burn down. You could be homeless the next day.
That's right.
It can happen to anybody.
That's right.
So what we're trying to do with through the Rhode Island Coalition for the Homeless and Voices for Homelessness is to tell our stories.
Yes.
And to share with people that it can happen to anybody, and we get rid of that stigma.
Yes.
You can see the change that you were talking about, the change in the people here. We have changed immensely. It's wonderful. I live a wonderful life today. And I'm giving back because somebody helped me. And I know that this world needs a lot of help.
That's right.
And I'm just doing my part. Whatever I can do, the Lord's called me to do what I need to do. And I may not know what I'm up to tomorrow, but something happens and I'm off, whether I get a call from somebody to go. I do fentanyl test kit. I'm into what I do now. My basic focus is on drug addiction. So I am part of an organization that gives out Narcan, which is an opioid reversal drug. Everybody's probably heard of it. It's otherwise known as naloxone. What I do is I go out and I give trainings on naloxone, on how to administer it. I hand out kits. That's part of, we're saving lives.
That's right.
I went to the governor's task force meeting on overdose prevention the last time. It was 2 weeks ago or so. And from January of 2019 to June of 2016, opioid overdose deaths are down.
Wonderful.
And I attributed it solely. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but I attribute it to Narcan.
Yes.
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get people to have Narcan and to train them in how to use it and to carry it on them so we can save other lives.
Yes, that's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful to hear, that this is something that we're doing, just like yourself, when you mentioned about the opioid epidemic. This is something that I am about to do next year. I'm about to have an annual festival about raising awareness against the opioid epidemic, and possibly we can get you to be one of our keynote speakers for the festival. But, each and every one of you, you have just shared powerful stories in regards to homelessness. And this question is just general for either one of you guys. What should we do? How, in many ways, we should educate others to know, to end this vicious cycle of homelessness?
Well, first of all, we need to stop looking at homelessness as an illness or a disease. We need to look at it as a systematic issue that needs to be corrected. There are ways to combat homelessness. One of them is getting out and voting for people who want to make that change.
That's right.
Another one is to make housing a basic need versus something that people need to work for to get. Yes, I mean, you have to pay rent, you have to do that, but we shouldn't have to work 3 part-time jobs just to afford an affordable place to live. So it starts within the systems that are set up to help people, and it's about educating people on the facts of homelessness. And that's what we all sit around this table to do, is to go out and educate you about the reality of homelessness. Because people don't wake up and say, oh, I'm going to be homeless tomorrow,
That's right.
and it's going to take me years
That's right.
before I can get housed.
right.
None of us chose that path in our life, but it happened to us,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it's happening every day to more and more people.
And just to reiterate a little bit on what Wilma said about that, we also have to remember that there's families that are homeless right now that don't have jobs and can't afford daycare, and the state's making it very hard for them to get to daycare because you have to go through this hoop to get this hoop to get this one.
Yes.
Some of these people are single and they're single mothers. They can't do it. They have nobody. Like, there needs to be something set up that, they're here. They're trying to change their life.
Yes.
Let's push a little something back for a minute and give them the extra shot. You never know, that one shot could make a tremendous difference in somebody's life. I know,
Yes.
because it made a difference in mine.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it makes a difference in each and every one of us. And we just want to be that voice. Just be that voice. You say you're an advocate. You go out and you're part of this training for the opioid epidemic. You all go out and you share your story. You do, I guess you're a reporter.
Yes.
Yes. And so you shared your story to others. We all need to share our stories to others in so many ways. And we just have to just be that support to others and just let people know, that we are here and we want to create change. And we want to create change in the lives of so many Rhode Islanders. It not only is happening in our state, but it's happening in other states. It's everywhere. Let's just say it's everywhere. But we're going to first start here, and we want to be able to make the difference in the state of Rhode Island. And I believe that with all of us being in this fight, because it is a fight, it's a true fight, but by all of us being in this fight to end homelessness, I'm pretty sure one day we will break that barrier. And that is what it's all about. That is basically what it's all about.
Yeah, I totally agree. Education is first.
Yes.
Education is key.
Yes.
That's why we're doing this show.
Yes.
We need to educate people as to what homelessness is. One thing I want to say about homelessness, People that are homeless, like I said, though most of them do not choose to be, there is a lot of mental illness and drug addiction involved with homelessness, and a lot of it is not their fault. A lot of people deal with mental illness. Even people that aren't homeless deal with mental illness. It is a disease. Now, these people are out there with depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, all of these different illnesses, and they're still trying to get by life. They're still trying to survive. And we need to help them.
That's right.
We need to help them survive. We need to get them into housing. There's not enough housing in this state.
That's right.
They're not putting people into housing, you know?
I think, I'm sorry.
Number
I
one
think that
is,
if it starts off with like core values, because we all suffer from, you know, depression every now and again, and you know, anxiety in a certain situation. But when you're out in the elements of life, and you know, you don't have a foundation or a place to lay your head, you're even more full of anxiety. And so if we could set up certain strategies to help these people with their issues on the inside,
Yes.
we can help them develop on the outside and how to,
Yes.
you know, create their life as a healthy environment.
That's it.
Well said.
That's it.
number one is affordable housing. Number two is non-discrimination of income due to getting to housing. And number three is to seal all eviction records. Because there's many, many people out there who have been evicted 1, 2, 3, 4 times, whatever. And they just cannot get housing. You can't even get on some of the housing waiting lists for housing that is here if you have eviction record.
I mean, I just tried to apply for a job in the state of Rhode Island. If you don't get a letter stating how many hours a week and how much you make, they do not provide childcare. Well, how do you receive that letter if you don't have the time to actually work first to get the letter?
Yeah.
So there needs to be like a period of time, or maybe they allow you to do so.
Yes.
Because how do you get housing and pay for it if you can't get a job? I mean, I have income, but you know, I want to better myself for my children.
Yes.
And I can't do that because of the box the state wants to keep us in.
Yes, yes. And that is why we need to let them know. We need to try to change some laws and to make it aware. Just make it aware. And that's what we're in the fight to do. Listen, y'all, you heard these powerful stories from these 5 constituents. These are the voices of homelessness. Invite them to any speaking engagements that you would like for them to attend. Give our office a call. Give me a call at the Rhode Island Homeless for the Coalition, and we'll be more than happy to take your calls, talk to you, and to invite our speakers to your event. The address will be at the bottom of the screen where you can come, even visit us. Go to our website as well. We're right there. Listen, we'd like to thank each and every one of you for being on this special edition of Reflections TV. Thank you so much for sharing your stories and being a voice to each and every one that is watching. Again, thank you for tuning in into Reflections TV, where I am your host today, Shirley Hood, and you all have a blessed day.